If you chose the customer-assembled shipping option, your skylight shade will arrive as a kit. First, carefully open each box and lay the pieces on the floor as shown. Handle the pieces with care to avoid scratching them. The skylight shade is shipped to you in 3 different boxes. The first box contains the left and right pieces of the frame. The second box contains the roller shade with the cable attached to it. And the third box contains the remaining 2 pieces of the frame, as well as all 4 pieces of fascia with their corresponding fascia brackets. Each one of the pieces is labeled with an arrow indicating the direction of the sky to show the orientation of each piece. Using a measuring tape, mark the well on at least 2 spots on each side to indicate the height at which the frame will sit relative to the skylight window. Make sure to not violate the minimum distance required by your skylight window manufacturer. Using a stud finder, locate and mark the position of the studs on each side. It is recommended to mark a minimum of 2 studs per side, and possibly more for larger shades. Write down the position of the studs relative to the end walls, as these measurements will be needed to drill the mounting holes in the frame. Pre-wire the light well so that the low-voltage cable is positioned next to where the drive will be, and measure its position. For safety purposes, make sure to cut power from the source while working with the wiring. Utilizing a power drill, screw in at least 2 mounting clips on each side at the stud positions previously marked. These clips will serve as a temporary extra set of hands while mounting the shade. To prepare the brackets, start by removing the tabbed plates from the bracket. Slide the plates tab first into the matching corner's T-slot. Tighten the screws to hold them in place. Loosen the screws on the brackets and slide them in towards the middle of the frame, about 3 inches. Tighten the screws to hold the bracket in place. Repeat this until the brackets on each corner are prepared. Measure and mark the position of the studs and wire on the frame. Drill holes along the indentations in the frame at the position of each stud. Finally, using a bigger drill bit, drill a hole on the side frame next to the drive where the wire mark is. Keep in mind the orientation of the pieces by verifying that the sky arrow on the labels is pointing to the sky when installed. To assemble the frame above, start by installing the side frame where the wire is. Place it on top of the clips, and then proceed to drive the screws through the frame into the studs in the wall. Check the level to make sure the frame is at the angle desired, and then fasten the screws just enough to keep it in place. Then install the opposite side the same way. Next, install the end frames. Slide in the frames from the bottom through the clips or from above. Once the frame is safely supported by the clips, remove the screws from the tabbed bracket plate at the end. Slide the bracket pieces back into the corner and replace the screws on the tabbed plate. Before tightening the screws, make sure that the corner is square and even. Repeat for the remaining corners. Check the frame's squareness by measuring the diagonals. The difference between diagonals should be no greater than 1/4 inch. Shim the frame alongside each screw to make the frame square to keep it from bowing when the screws are tightened. Tighten the screws and recheck the frame's squareness. Once the frame is securely fastened on all sides, twist and slide the mounting clips out of the way. Remove the 4 screws that are farthest away from the drive end of the frame. Then, align the shade brackets with the frame brackets on both sides. Snap in the hem bar wheels onto the guiding tracks on the frame, and replace the screws. Tighten them to secure the shade. Next, remove the cable from the cardboard spool, and dress it through each of the pulleys as shown. Then, dress the cable through the spool on the spring and attach it to the metal hook nearby. Repeat this step for the other side. Keep in mind that there will be significantly more resistance for the second spring. After the spring is attached, tighten the screws on both hooks to secure the springs. Following the instructions on the Savoya QED or Savoya QS wiring and programming guide, attach the terminal block to the wire. Then, connect the terminal blocks together. For the Savoya QED skylight shade, route the IR wiring between the frame and the wall, and affix it to the frame utilizing heavy-duty dual-sided tape. The Savoya QS IR receiver is located on the keypad. Therefore, this step should be skipped. Using the buttons on the drive, enter the Open Limit Setting mode by pressing the button next to the white square. A green LED light will turn on. Next, open the shade past its open limit until the cable repositions itself on the farthest indentation on the spool by using the arrow button on the drive. Do not try to drive the shade past where the hem bar hits the shade roller. Close the shade past the open limit using the arrow buttons. Finally, press the open limit button again to resume normal operation. The green LED light will now be off. Place the 4 pieces of fascia on the floor and identify the drive end, right, and left side. Insert the brackets on each side of the drive end fascia as shown. Repeat this for the left and right side fascia. Be sure to place the brackets on the ends that do not have a hole through it. Snap the pieces of fascia into place, starting with the drive end fascia. Then proceed with the right and left sides, and finish with the pulley end fascia. Reach around the fascia and bracket to line up the parts before inserting the screw. Using an Allen wrench, tighten the 4 screws to secure the fascia. Finish the installation by adding the final touches around the frame. Seal around the edge of the frame using caulk to fill light gaps. You may also choose to use trim. Lumber suppliers stock 3/4-inch white quarter-round trim that covers larger gaps well and flexes to accommodate uneven walls. Adding these finishing touches is strongly recommended for a complete light block. Your installation is now complete. You are now ready to enjoy the benefits of the new Savoya Skylight Shade.